Hello pilots and welcome to a quick review of how I have my controls in WarThunder set up. This setup particularly is mainly focused on being really simple and having all the keys you need in combat on your left hand or on Mr. Mouse. Oops. Dangerous. Things are falling over. And I want to keep this as short as possible. Very important, below in the description is the link to the download of this particular configuration. And in WarThunder you can just go in under menu, controls, just open it, then you can just import a file. So just download it, this will be the file, and just open it, and there you have your configuration. But also quickly gonna mention the other keys. There's of course export file, which I definitely recommend. It has happened in the past that Gaijin has deleted or messed up configurations through updates, so having your particular configuration always saved, very good idea. In case things go really bad and you have to start from scratch, you can always go quickly to Control Wizard. Currently, you can see I have a custom control setup, but you can just choose simple or advanced. Really simple. And it gets back to the original setup, how you had it done by Gaijin. But let's get started. We're almost 2 minutes in. I'm gonna go as quickly as possible over the keys and why they are assigned the way they are assigned. Start out with small caliber guns, which are on your left mouse button. Small caliber guns means the smaller caliber of the machine gun. So if you have a 7 point something and a 12.5, you still, this is just a 7 point something. And then on the right mouse button we have larger caliber guns, which would be then the 12.5, or in other cases where you have 20mm cannons, the larger caliber are the 20mm cannons. This I've set this loadout up like this, or the setup up like this, so you have the small caliber guns to pre-aim your shots a little bit at the enemy, and then use and finish him off with the large caliber guns when you know your aim is right. Additionally, for example, in German aircraft, I'm often using stealth ammunition on the large caliber guns, and so I have some tracers for realistic battles in my small caliber guns to pre-aim, to aim a little bit. Then we have additional guns, which is a new option which just came in, which is guns which are usually bigger than the 20mm. So 37mm, 50mm, 75mm, all kinds of. Usually you want to have them in emergency situations. You want to just have it with the other large caliber guns. That's your finishers. That's the ones which hurt really bad. But you can already see I've set also number keys for them to be able to just use them separately. While for the small caliber guns it's not really important. The large caliber guns are on 2 and the additional guns are on 3. So if you just want to shoot your 37mm, for example, in a Japanese sorry, cat needed to get let out of the room. So and so you can still shoot them in separate, or if you want to save the bigger gun ammunition, just to shoot the large caliber gun. But in cases where you have the time to decide about this, you're gonna have time to press the buttons. So it's no problem there that this is a little bit more complicated to fire them in separate. Drop bombs and fire rockets, as you can see, are both set to space. So most airplanes have only bombs or rockets. So having them on space is no problem, but in the few cases where you actually have both, you can use then the number keys to specifically use this ordnance. Schräge Musik is are 20mm cannons, which are usually 20mm cannons. Currently only 20mm cannons in the game, but historically there were also lower calibers and higher. Yeah. Which are in an angle built into the airplane to shoot upwards. They're actually quite nice, but they require a little bit of training. The key I'm using here is the one which is the furthest left top on the keyboard, left of the one key. Consider it close by, and but in the most cases where you have the time to just think about, okay, I'm going to use a Schrägmusik, and then also use it, which is a little bit of a fiddly thing. You need to be quite precise with your mouse to actually make it work. You have the time to just move off the keyboard quickly and hit the key, and also get back then in normal fight mode. Reload guns, just an R. I'm not using it a lot, so if you don't use it, you can for example, if you only fly a realistic battle, you can just move it to the original or have it still on the original Y key. But if you're flying a lot of arcades, the reload key in between to reload your guns in between fights is quite a nice addition to have this close. Gear is again a key you don't really need to worry about in combat situations, so it's a little bit further away. Lock targets is important, so you can switch quickly between targets, just the middle mouse button, just hit it quickly. Throttle axis is control and shift, which increase and decrease the value, which makes a lot more sense than having W and S to, yeah, whatever. I don't know why Genshin said this, but so this allows you to very precisely change the configuration, so it hopefully allows you both to quickly change and secondly to still be quite precise. Precision is more important because the simple fact is these are all propeller or jet-driven aircraft which have spin-up time, so even if you get on full force immediately, they won't get full force out. They don't give full force output. They need to spin up, and that's actually simulated in WarThunder, so getting up to top speed in no time doesn't really make a difference. I changed the hold throttle for web to no, because you have the precision with your throttle axis now. You can just, if you want to have web, you hit shift quickly, it goes up on web, and if you want to get off, you just hit control and go off. Which is especially for realistic battle and simulated battle. Simulated battle you fly on joystick, but for realistic battle, really important in my opinion, because otherwise you need to hold down the shift key to web, and for example with some German airplanes you always web. They have liquid cooled engines, which while they get easier destroyed, have really good cooling, so you can web a lot. Ignite booster is for high tier jet aircrafts currently only, so don't really need to have it assigned in a basic setup. If you're flying jets, you should have your own setup. Roll axis and pitch axis is your normal VASD keys, and the yaw axis is just E and Q. I played with the sensitivity of all of these, so hopefully they work out for you. If not, you can change these settings during a free flight, so you can just jump into airplane. I can actually show you guys quickly. Just jump into airplane and hit test flight. So free flight, test flight. And then while you have your test flight, when you hit escape, it pauses the game and you can change your controls. So if you want to play around with these exact values, this is how the menu looks. Yes, I know. We don't use joystick, of course. There's no need to have, therefore, control X and Y. Control sensitivity as much as possible. If you fight hard, go hard. Aim sensitivity I have relatively low, so I can do precision movement with the mouse. And the simple fact is, still when you rip the mouse around halfway around the airplane, you still get full control surfaces moving. Mouse smoothing I'm having off, but also mostly your personal opinion, so I would recommend playing around with it a little. Mouse wheel I have the zoom axis, so it just can vary around a little bit with your zoom instead of having just a normal zoom level. And having the throttle on it just makes not really any sense. Because the shift and control keys are so easily accessible with your little finger. Gunner sensitivity depends on how you want to have it. I usually on the lower side to be more able to precisely shoot rather than being able to quickly follow an airplane. And the other thing is that when you switch from normal view to gunner view, you usually switch from looking forwards to looking backwards. And if you then additionally have really sensitive controls, it can be quite confusing. At least for me, it was quite confusing to have it on high sensitivity. So let's move on. We have toggle flaps, which is partially automated. So if you're toggling your flaps in the air, you will automatically get combat flaps. If it seems you're in a landing approach, you might get landing flaps. And if you're on the runway accelerating, you most likely will get takeoff flaps. But there's also the specific flaps ups and flap down keys to set when you, for example, do a landing approach where you go through the first you are on takeoff flaps for a little while you adjust your approach, and then all the way at the end you put it on landing flaps. So for that situation, this is really good to have, and it doesn't also really matter that they're so far away because you only need them during landing and takeoff, not even on takeoff, because the F normal toggle flaps key will just retract them. So the only time you actually need them is during landing, especially landing on short airstrips when you underestimate your speed. It's sometimes just good to just take the flaps up into takeoff again to not lose that much speed, because it's faster or almost faster to raise the flap than to spin up the engine again and get more thrust out of it. Toggle air brakes, not 100% happy with this position, but on the other hand, I'm not really using a lot of airplanes which have air brakes, and the few airplanes which have air brakes, they usually don't use them in combat situations that often. So there's the situations where I use them in, there's usually always the time to just quickly hit the H key and go off the normal combat keys. If you're flying a jet airplane, again, this is most likely something you want to change, because in jet airplanes the air brake is really important. We just have for both wheels the same brake key. There isn't really any need for having any other. If you want to turn the airplane, it's just easier to use the on axis with the Q and E key. So let's head on. Instructor, I would recommend having everything off, but if you want to have some help in the beginning, you can leave on the last one, throttle boost hint. However, it will put you at a disadvantage. Any of these can put you at a disadvantage. Not necessarily the auto control of landing gear, but especially the top and the bottom one can in-game put you in a disadvantage. And additionally to the top one it's not necessarily about hindering you of maneuvers, but when you actually are in such a situation that you would hit the ground, this doesn't stop it. You still hit the ground. So having this on is the only thing is annoyance, that when you get close to the ground, your airplane starts to wobble around. So let's head on to tank controls. Really simple: tank throttle, tank steering, and I unassigned everything which doesn't really work in or is easier is already done by these keys in the mouse aim mode. Then just fire main gun. Currently there is no multi-turreted tanks in the open beta, so left mouse button, just main gun, done. Sniper mode, I often find myself quickly switching between normal mode and sniper mode, so I want to have this really close by currently, as long as there's no need to have the right mouse button, for example, for secondary guns or anything. Then we have, in this case, cruise control, because we're on mouse aim. This is not the transmission gear, it's cruise control, which is quite fun. You have 3, 4 gears: reverse, 1, 2, and max. So if you don't want to sit pressing the W key all the time, you can quickly just hit shift and shift up and down. However, if you want to do a quick brake or quick turn, it's better to be on the normal W forward. So you get off W, hit A or D, which in this case then triggers actual brake off this side of the track, a full stop, and your tank slides around. But for just going along over longer distances or up a hill, this can be really useful. Another important key is tank repair. As soon as you have the parts modification unlocked, you can repair your tank in a lot of situations. Especially when you get to simulated battle. I'm not that sure how there's situations where it doesn't actually work. Lock target, I just stick to the same key as with the airplanes, just the middle mouse button, and that's already it. Except with and again, mouse wheel being zoom axis as in the airplane controls as well. Let's go quickly over the view controls. Zoom camera, which is like the immediate, not like zooming with a mouse wheel, but just zip, you're in zoom. Just the mouse button 5. You need it a lot in the air and also in the tank, so this is a really good key to have. Tracking camera for enemies is the enemy you have locked. You can follow with this key, which in air battles can be quite useful to just quickly check if you're in a dogfight with a one-on-one dogfight with somebody, or even in a 2-on-1. When you just want to see where your original enemy is, you can quickly hit this button and your mouse swings there, or your camera swings there, without you having to hold any key or to move the key around, move any of your other buttons. Tracking bomb and torpedoes is just simply on you. If you have the time to follow your torpedo or your bombs, you have the time to get off your combat keys and hit the U key. Toggle view is also just in range and you can press it just with a thumb. Because you anyway need it for the bombs around the same location. At least on my small hands, this works out. The next few keys are, I'm usually just using toggle view, just quickly flipping through. I know around automatically how far I need to go to get to the view I want. The other keys I don't really use very often, but especially external view, F3 and F5 are nice to have, especially F5 because it's easy to find, but it's further away, which just puts you back into your external view. So if you're somewhere swirling around and you're lost in gunner view and you just, it's just the panic key kind of just hit it and you're back in normal view. For the mouse look, I'm using C, which is like V, directly accessible for me with the thumb, or I can just take down my one of the finger I usually have on the D key. Slow and steady. Otherwise, there isn't really a lot to say about this anymore. Camera, look speed, and so on. Feel free to change. This is mostly a personal preference, but it should set you up quite well in the beginning. So let's quickly go through these, but I'm only going over the important ones. Tactical map with M. Again, if you have time to look at the tactical map and not just at the radar which you have in the bottom, you have time to get off your combat keys. Tab is quite an important key, because especially in realistic battles where you know exactly how many airplanes are around, knowing how many airplanes are still alive can be quite important to judge the tactical situation. Aerobatic smoke, just a fun key for me, so again, far away from any close J key. Same here, if you need to hit J, you have the time to get off your combat keys, or you don't need to be on your combat keys. Screenshot is just on P, just to be on the keyboard. And if you want to make a beauty shot, it's F12, but again, same reason that it's so far away from the combat keys, that it's just as long as you don't need it. Otherwise, chat, just a normal enter, and shift to then change between chats. The radio messages are a nice new feature which they recently just released. 1 patch, 2 patches ago. It just makes it easier to communicate, especially with people who don't speak necessarily English. Because there is just WarThunder is one server essentially with all the matchmaking, so you might get... no, there's different servers, but you still... If you're playing, for example, on all servers at the same time in all match queues, you still end up maybe on a Russian server, or some Russians might end up on your server. So radio messages quite important. I set it up in a way that you can either have the just close by with the T key and then use the numbers, and most of the messages are in the 1 to 4 range. So most important ones, they've really set this up quite well. Or otherwise, if you were just busy with your left hand, you can use the number pad on the right hand to just quickly jump off the mouse, type in what needs to be set, and done. For example, if you're have free look on C, look at an enemy, and you don't want to go off C to take that, lose track of him, you can just hold C and quickly use the number pad to put in your radio message. Then we have here, which actually should be in tank controls. We have the just the normal settings for the tanks. And that's already it. I'm not gonna go over the replays. Again, link is to this download. Yes, is in the description. You just use the import key down here, and then you can just import it. So you don't need to change anything around. You just can later then use this setup and modify the sensitivity, or move a few keys, move a few of these special keys around. If you, for example, don't want to have the bombs and rockets in the same, and so on. If you want to have it a little bit more complex. All right, that's already it. Again, I talked quite a lot, but I hope I explained why the keys are where they are and how I use them, especially some more specific ones, like for example the air brake one, but in most cases I'm not on a level where I'm using air brakes efficiently, so I rather don't have them close by to press the button. Okay, I hope this was helpful. Keep calm and fly safe.